Hello and welcome to MON DIEU. I'm Olivia McCoy. Today we're going to be making dumplings. To start, we're going to be making the dumpling dough, the wrapper dough. Here we have 515 grams of flour, or 3.5 cups. We also have 230 grams of water, or 1 cup, in addition to a teaspoon of salt here. We're going to add our salt into our flour and just give that, I like to use my hands as you know, but we're just going to give it a nice mix. You can also use a whisk if you would like. We're going to create a center well, so a hole in the middle of our flour. We're just pushing down in the middle there. And to that well, we are going to add, let's start with half of our water just to see how much our dough hydrates. We're going to mix it in. You can do this with a spatula or a fork. I, of course, like to use my hands just because I get a better feel for the dough. Alright, seems like we can see here, got a lot of crumbles going on. A lot of flour not incorporated at all. That means we're going to have to get more water going. We're going to push that dough to the side that does have some hydration. I'm going to pour the water over the flour that has not been incorporated. I'm going to mix that together and then start to add to the mass here. Alright, what we're going to look for is a supple dough, nothing sticky, nothing too dry. So right now what I'm seeing is a lot of shreddiness in my dough, and then I still have some raw flour at the bottom. So I'm actually going to go for a little bit more water, which is totally fine. You have your sink on hand. This is a dough that we are going to need quite a bit, about 15 minutes worth of kneading, just to get the gluten structure working. That way our wonton wrapper can stretch to a nice and thin, even wrapper around our dumpling. Alright, I'm going to grab that water. Now I'm getting some nice mass here, but I still have some loose flour at the bottom. I'm going to add the water just to hydrate that flour. Anything shaggy, I'm kind of just adding into that as well. And now what I'm going to do is lay down some additional flour onto my countertop for my kneading process. If you add a little too much water, like I think that I just did, not going to be too big of a problem with this dough, especially because of how long we're kneading. We can just incorporate more flour by putting it on our surface and pushing it into our dough through the kneading process. Alright, so this is good troubleshooting here. You can see I do have a mass of dough, but it is rather sticky. I'm going to start kneading it into the flour. And when I feel the stickiness of the dough start to come through, that's when I'm going to lay more flour down on my countertop to counteract that and get us where we want to go texture-wise. Like I said, we are going to be doing about 15 minutes of kneading. By the end of our process, we should be able to do the window pane test, which means that we pull our dough. Let's get a little chunkier, I could show you. We pull our dough like this, and when it stretches so we could see through it, this one just immediately tore because it hasn't been kneaded. When we stretch it and we could see through, we can see light through, that is how we know our dough has a gluten structure strong enough to make dumplings. All right. You can see now that I've been kneading just a bit, but adding more flour. My dough is no longer sticky. It's got a nice and supple texture. Nothing that's sticking to my hands, which is what we are looking for. Now I'm just gonna be here for about 15 more minutes. I've been kneading the dough for about 10 minutes here. So what we have in front of us is it's getting a lot softer, a lot smoother. If there's any sort of like rippling on the sides or like tearing that looks like that, it means we need to knead it more. A test I'm gonna do to see if we're kind of close or if we're getting ready to have that window pane action, the window pane test here, I'm gonna pinch with my fingers a ball of the dough off. And then with that, I'm going to flatten it and begin to stretch it from side to side, pulling. Okay. And what I'm starting to see is that we're holding our form. We're tearing a little bit. I can see light through, but then we do get that tear. That means that we've not kneaded long enough. So I'm just starting to see that light through my window pane of dough. And what you do, I'll show you. What you want to do is once you've stretched it, then you want to hold it up to a light source and see if you can see that light source through. So again, I'm getting that little tear there, but you can see some light. See? But that tear means that we need to keep kneading it. Another style of kneading I like to do once I get to this point is a French technique that I learned at Le Cordon Bleu when I went there for my honeymoon with Michael. And what you do for that is you grab the piece of dough, hold it with the flat side, hold the side that you're kneading, so the side that you're kneading down on, hold that side with your fingers just on the edge here. Take your flat side, slam it down onto your countertop. Flat side remains the same. You're folding it over, picking it back up from the 90-degree angle side. So from the opposite side, you pick it up, slam it down, and you can start to feel it give that stretch in your hand. This incorporates a lot of air into your dough, which is good. We learned this method when we were making croissants, and then if you start to get a tear like that, it means you're still not ready for the window pane test, but you can re-knead so that you have a flat side again, and just continue. So I'm going to keep doing this until we're ready, and I'll show you the window pane, and then we're going to let this dough rest. I kept kneading for about 10 minutes, and then I let it rest for about 5 because I knew that it was structurally, it's looking really good. It's super smooth, super soft, and there's really no rippling around the sides, which means that it is ready to go. But I wasn't getting that window pane action I wanted, so I just put a little plastic wrap over the top of my dough. I let it sit there for about 5 minutes, and then I tried my window pane test again. And here we have, hold on, let me figure out how to do this. Alright, so we see the light through it. There is a tiny bit of tearing, but that's expected when you're stretching the dough this thinly. Okay? There we go. That's great. Okay. Perfect. We can see the light through it. Majority of it stretches and holds. So that's what we're looking for. Now we're going to continue to let this rest in just a nice little ball shape. We're going to let it rest for about an hour. An hour would be the minimum time to rest it. You can also wrap this in plastic and keep it in your refrigerator overnight and use it the next day if you wanted. So this is something that took me about 20 minutes to put together, and then tomorrow it's going to make us some really good dumplings. We had our dough resting for at least 1 hour. I went ahead and put mine in the refrigerator and let it go overnight because I knew I wasn't going to get to it. So it's the next day. Totally fine. just straight out of the refrigerator. It shouldn't have risen or anything because, again, we didn't use any yeast. But we do have a worked up gluten structure that is now relaxed and ready to make into dumplings. We are going to unwrap our dough here. And that was sealed very tight, at least for an hour or overnight. We're going to be cutting it into 2-inch sections. I'm using this bench scraper. You can use a pizza wheel or a knife. So just nice 2-inch. Now with our 2-inch dough here, we are going to roll it. So now it's going to be more of a 1-inch cylindrical roll here. This we are going to, again, use a knife, bench scraper, or pizza wheel, and we're going to cut this into the shape of a gnocchi, or just about the same size as your thumb. Alright, and we would do that for the rest of our dough, however many dumplings we want to make. We could keep our dough in one whole piece and save it for, we could keep it for at least a week. So if you want to make dumplings one day and then you're like, I'm tired of making them, keep your dough for later and then go back to it later in the week when you want dumplings again. It's nice if you have somebody to do this with because you could be stuffing them or you could be rolling them and the person could be stuffing and folding them. But I'm just going to show you how to do all that right now. So we have our dumplings here, and this dough really is enough to make probably up to 100 dumplings. There's quite a bit of it. So if you want to half the recipe to make less dumplings, that's totally fine. I'll put the full recipe in there, and then you just divide everything by 2 so that you make less dough. In turn, you make less dumplings, although you can save this for a week, so it's up to you. All right, so we have a little bit of flour here. We're going to just flour our work surface nicely, just a good sprinkle. We're going to take one of our little dumplings here, and we're going to, instead of smushing it in its rectangular form, we're going to set it upright, smush it down, and this will make it into a base circle. And that's what we're looking for. We want this to be completely covered in flour. And we're going to take our rolling pin. We're going to start in the middle and push forward. Rotate it 90 degrees. Start in the middle, push forward. Rotate. Start in the middle, push forward. And we'll do this all the way around until our circle is a little bit bigger than our palm. We want it to be pretty thin, that way that it cooks when we pan fry these. If it's too thick, it will remain gummy, so we want it very thin. Pushing from the middle, rotating 90 degrees. Just continuing to do that. Alright, what I want to look for is I can almost see through it. I can pull it, I like to pull it just a little bit after I'm done rolling it to make sure everywhere is even. It shouldn't be tearing. If it's tearing, that means that we didn't do our kneading process long enough. This looks good. So I want it a little bit bigger than my palm, which I have achieved now. I'm going to fill this with my meat mixture that I have here. This is a mix of ground beef, 1 egg, 3 scallions that I chopped finely, soy sauce, and some chili oil. I'm going to include the recipe below, and I'll include some other ones. You can use ground beef, you can use ground pork, ground turkey, whatever suits your fancy. I'm using a ½ teaspoon to fill this, but what I want to feel is just in the middle of my palm. Nice amount of meat there. I'm going to show us 3 techniques today on how to fold. So the first one is going to be my most simplistic, straightforward. this little guy here. So how we achieve this is we are going to fold the bottom up to the top. Then we're going to go along the edges and make sure that all the edges are pressed tight. We don't want it to be loose at all because then we'll lose our filling and it will explode when we're cooking it. Just press that down tight. Then all we're going to do is fold these edges together, flip it on its butt, and we have a dumpling. You can see I folded this one, I rolled this one a little bit bigger than this one. If you care about uniformity, you just keep an eye out for that, but I think these two look pretty nice. Okay. Our next one, just gonna roll out another piece of dough. Again, I'm putting it not on its flattest side, but on its smallest side here, pressing it down, and that's gonna give us our base circle. I'll show you what it looks like if I press it while it's on its longest side. It turns into a square, okay? Now we're gonna roll out another one. If it gets stuck to your rolling pin, just rotate the dough upside down and add more flour. So for our next one, we are going to make a shape. It's a little bit more traditional. This has the pinches on just one side, while the other side is flat. So how we do that is we are going to, again, take the bottom and pinch into the top. And then we're going to take the side farthest from us, bring it forward and make a fan crease. Again, side farthest from us, make that fan crease. Again. And we're just pinching as we go. And then the last one. And now we'll just do that for the other side. The side furthest from us, we're going to pick it up and make a fan crease. Like you're making a fan out of paper, that same kind of fold. And again, we're just pinching it when we get to the middle. Another one. And then the last one. And there we go. We're going to pinch the top to make it secure. And we just did a dumpling there. So here we have two of that same shape. These little cuties. Okay. Now we're going to do our most complex fold. Again, putting it like a soldier, pushing it down to a base circle. Flour it up. Roll her out. Now for this one, we're not going to start in the middle unlike all the other times. For this one, we are going to start at the edge. We're going to pick our edge up and we're going to pinch it here at the base. So instead of going from the top and the bottom, we're going to go from the two sides and pinch those together. And then we're going to do our fan fold alternating sides. So our first fan fold will be on the top, the second one will come from the bottom. From the top, the second one comes from the bottom. And we're just going to do that all the way across the dumpling where we fan fold the top, pinch it, fan fold the bottom, pinch it, all the way until we run out of dough to pinch. And then at the end we have our last one and we pinch it there. And now we have our dumpling that has fan folds on both sides, a little bit more decorative. So all in all, we have our 3 different styles here. This one's like a nice little coin purse. This one's kind of like a side fan. And then we have our kind of tortellini shape, which will be your easiest one. but still nice. Gets a lot of good surface area for the crunchy bottom when we pan fry. So our 3 different ways of cooking these, we could steam them if you have a bamboo steamer. You can pan fry them, which is probably everybody's favorite. You can totally fry them. Or I guess there is a 4th way, you could also boil them. So we're gonna do pan fry today. I'm gonna make a couple more and show you the folds again, and then we'll do our pan frying. So we're just about ready to cook our dumplings. I have here a non-stick pan. It's over medium-low heat. What we're gonna add to our pan is some sesame oil. We're gonna add about 2 teaspoons. We want this to nicely be able to coat the entire pan with a little bit extra, and you'll see why that's important in just a second. So we're gonna add our dumplings in now because this has been heating. You can see there's steam coming off of it already. That means our oil is starting to smoke. We're gonna lay these down. Now for my method I'm gonna show you today, it involves making that lacy bottom that you might have seen on some dumplings. It's like this incredibly crunchy twirl that you can make at the bottom of your dumplings. So here I have a 1/3 cup of water with 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. It's hot water, so it gets the cornstarch dissolved like we want. In our pan, these are gonna start to brown. I just wanna get them to the point where I can see they're lightly tinting. That's gonna be when we pour our mixture in and cover. We're gonna pour all of this water and cornstarch in, and we're gonna immediately cover it to start this pan frying steam action. And now we're gonna let this go at medium-low for 7 minutes. Our timer's just about to go off. We're gonna take the lid off, and then we're going to allow the steam to continue to flow off of the pan, and we're going to let that lacy bottom brown, and that extra sesame oil we put on at the beginning is gonna be what makes us able to come off of the non-stick, and then when we place it onto our plate, we should be able to transfer the whole thing over and have that crispy bottom right side up. All right, that's our timer. Lid's coming off. All right, so here we have our lacy bottom starting to form. We're just gonna let this continue to cook until hopefully it can come off all in one go. If not, you still get that really nice crispy texture. For my electric stovetop, I'm kind of noticing some places are a little bit, starting to form more than others, so I'm trying to hit those spots that are not as formed first. That way we don't get any burning. Show you now, it's starting to get brown all over. You can see that one corner here where it might have been a little bit thicker. That's kind of what we're waiting on, as well as it to get this really nice golden color throughout. So we got a little bit more, sorry for being so shaky. We have a little bit more waiting to do. As we can see now, we're getting some action where it's lifting off from the sides. That's exactly what we want to see. It means we're almost ready. We just want this middle part to kind of be doing that same thing, and then we'll be good to go. So this is how I can tell that we're ready for this to be off of the heat and onto our plate. I am able to move all of the dumplings at one time because of this crispy layer, and it's fully not sticking to the bottom of the pan. That means that we're good to go, and these dumplings are ready to be eaten. All right, so what I'm gonna do is flip these out. I'm gonna try to do it like this. Ta-da! All right, so we have our crispy edge here. We have our dumplings underneath, and then what you do is just go in, crack it up, and dip it into your sauce. All right, I'm about to enjoy. So here we have our plate of dumplings. You can see if I take my chopsticks, I can start to break into this very crispy layer, and I'll be able to reach for one here. All right. And then we have our dipping sauce here, which is going to be some sugar, water, soy, rice vinegar, chili oil, and sesame oil and garlic if you would like. So that's all here, and now we're just going to enjoy them. Michael's here too. Super crispy, fully cooked inside, that's good. A little bit spicy from the chili oil. Oh mon dieu, we made dumplings!